to give justice for all of God's children. So in that vein, let us pray to our Creator, our Father. We are grateful to be in your midst, in your presence. We ask that the memory of our ancestors who lived in this place and whose blood runs through our veins, that you allow us to honor their memory, to remember their sacrifice. We pray, O God, for true justice, and not justice according to just man's law, but justice in accordance to your law and your will and your good pleasure for all of your children that you made. And that whenever there is a tyrant that seeks to deprive your children of their divine human rights, that you continue to raise up prophets to speak against them. We pray this prayer in the name of our greatest ancestor, we call Jesus the Christ. Amen. Thank God.
On now. Apolline Pina, Shahojikros, Ijogi, Amalegidos, Dolohasi, Wokogai, Amadovados. For what it counts, I'm a Muskogee Creek citizen, and I thank all of you for coming out here. And welcome to the Muskogee Creek Reservation that you're standing on right now. I want to introduce our next speaker, Mikey Arthrell. I'm going to personally vet for this dude. I have been friends with him since we were, 15, 16 years of age? And if you're sick of Cass Fowler and you live in District 5, he is running against Cass Fowler. And he almost beat him last time. So let's make sure that he does beat him this time. Mikey? Woo.
Thank you, Melania. Thanks to all the organizers. Mikey Arthrell, I'm running for City Council in District 5. Closer. Thanks. I want to talk about, my daughter told me to make this fun. So I can't, do what, Greg Robinson does when he gets the mic, but I could try. So in the past 17 years, I've been working in nonprofits, serving our community. There's something I've learned in all that time, and it's that systems are functioning as they were designed. My first job was out of college, working in a shelter. I worked with abuse survivors. I had to provide vital services for saving people's lives, helping them out, and that was like food stamps, cash assistance, stable housing. I realized though that this kind of made people play traditional victims to get help. They required interviews, they suggested that they had nothing, that they needed everything, and they got the sense that if my clients had like a nickel in their pockets or they could fill up their tank, that they were on their own. So I decided rather than giving them a blueprint for social services, I was going to respond directly to their needs. That meant fundraising, getting them cars, getting them housing, getting jobs, like finding money to support whatever they needed by going to charitable organizations. I was raising over $5,000 a month to support families and their needs, to move on with their lives, become survivors, instead of being stuck in a system that needed them to remain victims. My director asked me to stop. She said I was not following protocol and we needed to provide services that we offered. Getting clients whatever they wanted wasn't my job. That's when I realized for the first time that systems are functioning as they were designed. In our system, there are very few outcomes that lead to independence. And what independence is gained is hard won. My director cared about people, thought they were getting them on government programs was a safe thing to do. Even the best intentioned people can often miss that these systems on some level are designed to perpetuate poverty. When I was facilitating support groups, the domestic violence shelter in Austin, Texas, actually, I lobbied teachers to get more kids into the groups because our funding was at risk. Once again, I was told to stop. This time it was because the teachers thought the groups were rewarding bad behavior. These were the tough kids, the ones that were causing the issues that I was doing the groups with. And they thought my groups were a reward. So, you know, the funding was cut. I lost my job. But once again, the system was functioning as it was designed. It insisted that we force students into the jail system that we have to try and change their attitude, instead of empowering them by listening to what they need and helping them to create the resources to answer those needs. In each of these cases, all we're doing is perpetuating a system that was designed to keep the poor and people of color incarcerated, to prevent them from prospering, and perhaps worst of all, to interfere with the development of a full sense of self, their own power as individuals and as a community. The prosperity of Tulsa is being sucked out of the city. White flight took people out, took jobs out. Our whole tax base moved to the suburbs. We've allowed the country to break into to break into 8 separate school districts with different funding streams. Well, every year Tulsa Public Schools has been cut by tens of millions. We're graduating seniors with a 3rd grade reading level. And the people who have stayed in their communities are being the ones who blame for the health disparities, the nationally rated evictions, nationally ranked gun homicides. Systems are functioning as they were designed. We must change it. We must return to being people who care about people. It is not hard for me to believe that some people don't want to wear masks in public, and they want to send their children back to school in the height of a pandemic because they don't live in communities that are most impacted. Black and brown people's lives have always been the price white people have been willing to pay for wealth and convenience. This is what built the country, and what will kill us if we don't start listening and relate, to once again value all human lives. I'm running to be your next city councilor because black and brown lives matter. It should not be commodities that can be sacrificed for wealth. I'm running because our legislative body needs to see people as valuable and listen to them. We need everyone in Tulsa to act with compassion and empathy. When I worked at Youth Services of Tulsa Emergency Shelter, I was there for 5 years, shelter coordinator. I worked with someone named Rupert Henderson. Some people know him as Baby Boy or Rupert.
Rupert, yeah.
Yeah, and he and I were working with a young man who just learned that he was being moved into a home from our shelter. And the placement that DHS had found was the last thing he wanted to do. He ended up breaking TVs, throwing plates, attacking Rupert and I. We were ducking, dodging. All we were saying to him was, take care of yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Like, calm down. It's okay. He ended up leaving and trashing our cars, breaking the windows. He sat on the lawn waiting to be arrested. This kid wanted to be arrested rather than go to a DHS placement. Systems are functioning as they were designed. Fast forward 2 years. There's a mentally ill man at QT in December, actually. It wasn't that long ago. It's next to Brightwater Apartments where I'm working now. And I remember there was this video of the officers addressing this guy. He had a gun. He was alone in the Quick Trip. 2 officers were in there with their guns pointed at him. 4 more officers burst in to the convenience store. They told him to set the gun down, and then they shot him. He died. I couldn't help but think of what would happen if we valued his life as much as we valued, property. What if, like, all this store, if you just had to wait outside? What if you just chilled? Like, what if we could just value people enough to give them the space that they need, to have whatever feelings they need to have? So I thought back to that night at YST and how things didn't have to end this way. And how waiting safely outside an empty convenience store and letting someone act out their feelings and destroy property that can be insured and replaced instead of on people, which could have saved a life. It is not my place to second guess the actions of officers facing a violent man with a gun, but I also can't help but think of what if we valued him as much as we do the system. If our system didn't work the way it was designed to so well, we could have saved a life. My faith teaches me that we value one another as we value ourselves, and our system's not designed that way. Sadly, it's functioning exactly the way it was designed, and it will never change unless we're willing to make it change. I'm Mikey Arthrell. I'm running for District 5 City Council, and I need your help to make that change. So come to me after. I got lots of lit drop to do, taking drivers and all that. Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I just wanted to briefly introduce the next speaker we have. He's a man after everyone's heart, and I believe he will be the next mayor of our city. Everyone, Mr. Greg Robinson.
Are you taking that?
Good evening. How y'all doing?
So you can take it.
Yeah. You been home in a while?
It's a beautiful night. Hi. Yes. I feel good tonight. Sometimes I get up here and I'm full of, like, you know, y'all see that scowl on my face. So sometimes I'm full of my father. He gave me the sort of that righteous anger and the scowl. But sometimes I'm full of the enduring hope that my mom gave me. And I think tonight, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the park that we're in, maybe it's the diversity of people. I feel a sense of hope tonight. And so I'm actually going to speak from that space. Oh my goodness, we're joined by people from Oklahoma City as well. Good to see you all as well. Thank you for being out here. I'm full of hope because we protested over a month ago, and we're still gathering today. We need to give ourselves, some love for that. I'm full of hope today because everybody here is not the oppressed, right? We have the privileged here as well, standing up for the oppressed. I'm full of hope because of that. I'm full of hope today because everybody is not of one racial background. It's just not black folks out here saying Black Lives Matter. It's Latinx folks saying that as well, right? It's our Native community out here as well. It's our white brothers and sisters out here as well. This is just as much Tulsa as the lie we've been told Tulsa was for 100 years before now, right? This group of Tulsans has just as much right to see the city that they believe in as we've seen for the past 100 years. And that's what moments like this are about. That's what painting Black Lives Matter on Greenwood Avenue is about, because it is interesting to me that we were able to ignore laws for 100 years, and yet we conveniently use laws when it suits us. These things seem little. It's just a painting. But it's not. Because there was a deep sacrifice that those artists, those activists made. It was symbolic of something. It was reclaiming something. And so when the best that we have is, well, the law tells us we have to erase it, I have to think back to what the law told us during Jim Crow. I have to think back to what the law told us before the Voting Rights Act was enacted. Rest in peace, John Lewis. I have to think back to what the law told us when native lands were stolen from them. In fact, when we just came in and stole everything from native peoples. I have to think back to what the law said when there were people that looked like me that was picking somebody else's cotton. You see, I'm not satisfied with what the law says if what the law says isn't just. I'm asking us to think critically, to think more critically about the city that we want to be in. Think more critically about what our city is going to be a generation from now. What are they going to say 100 years from now? Are they going to look back and say, they were just too cautious. They were just too stuck in their ways to actually move us forward? Are they going to be disappointed in us? Or are they going to look and say, wow, that generation took a step forward. That generation said they wanted everybody to have a pathway forward. That generation said they wanted everybody to feel safe in their neighborhoods. That generation said they wanted everybody to be able to breathe clean air. They wanted everybody to have access to good paying jobs. They wanted everybody to have access to transportation. Everybody. That's what I want them to say. That's why this little boy from 29th and North Lewis had the audacity to file and run for mayor. The city has a decision to make. They have decisions to make every single day. The mayor right now has had decisions to make for 4 years. And you all have a decision to make on August 25th. We can be a city that looks at our past and says, you know what? We're gonna do a little different this time because we've learned from our mistakes. And so a city that was ravaged by not having accountability in the police department 100 years ago, we're actually gonna invest in police accountability 100 years later. We're actually going to invest in a holistic view of public safety, meaning we're gonna put police officers in position to be police officers. Not mental health workers, not social workers, not immigration officials, police officers. We're going to look at an $122 million that's supposed to go to public safety. It's only going to the police, and we're going to redistribute that so we can start investing in building people up instead of locking people up. So we can start investing in combating poverty instead of criminalizing it. We're going to be a city that invests in inclusive economic growth strategy. Black lives do matter. See how easy that is? Black lives actually do matter, and it's not that difficult. Nothing happened to anybody. We actually feel better about it. We're going to invest in being a more inclusive city in terms of our economics, because inclusivity is prosperity. This is not just about marching and yelling at the top of your lungs. If we don't create inclusive pathways for people of color, then we're not doing anything. Right now, the average white family has twice as much in their income as the average black family. Right now, Native people denied home loans at 3.5 times the rates of white Tulsans. Right now, that's happening. We have to be truly inclusive. I like New Tulsans initiative. That sounds good. But when you look at the data, on a scale from 1 to 5, we're a 1 when it comes to how we're supporting our immigrant communities. Not just the Latinx communities, the Hmong communities, the Russian communities, all of them. Everybody in Tulsa, whether you've been here 30 minutes or you've been here 30 years, needs to understand that this city is their city. Everybody needs a pathway. We're not going to bend to political pressure when deciding what's best for the safety of Tulsans anymore. That spans across public safety. It also spans across public health. A mask is not a political statement. It's not. But lastly, most important to me, we're gonna invest in our kids. All of our kids. It's traumatic to not have the mental and public health resources that we need right now in the city. It's traumatic to not invest inclusively in equitable housing policies and equitable economic development policies. And it's affecting our kids. If we think it's just about paying teachers more money, we haven't been in a classroom. Teachers didn't get into the classroom because of money. They got into this to try and make an impact. But when we don't recognize that Oklahoma has the highest ACE scores, meaning the highest adverse childhood experience scores, and we're not putting resources to combat that, we're not really dealing with the problem. See, what I'm talking about is not slogans. I'm not talking about just talking about stuff. I'm talking about doing something about it. That's what my mama told me. See, my mom, she was at the top of her game. She was a senior accountant at the Williams Company. And then she got multiple sclerosis. She stopped having the ability to walk. She had to retire. She's in a bed. Her husband dies, her caregiver. She's lost everything. And yet all she's telling me from her bed is, you gotta be solutions oriented at all times. You gotta never stop having hope. You gotta always be trying to figure out how to make something else better. You gotta be thinking about what you do have, not what you don't. That's the mindset that I grew up in. That's why I'm here. Not because I want to create division, but because I want to lean in and create real unity and real peace. But in order to create that, we got to tell the truth. How you going to look at a man struggling and tell him he's not struggling? How you going to put your knee on a man's neck and tell him that he can breathe if he talking? Huh? How you going to tell a community that they ought to recover, but you won't give them reparations for killing their people and destroying their property? How are you going to tell a people that they're included when you've been standing on their land and not honoring their cultures and not honoring their traditions? See, we've been living an illusion for too long. And so that is what I want to do as mayor. Not come in and ride in on a pretty white horse. Not tell you that everything is going to be okay if we do nothing. But to say that I have the passion and I have the courage to stand with Tulsans if we're willing to actually do better than we've done. If we're willing to actually help our neighbor. If we're willing to actually combat injustices with truth. That's what I'm willing to do. And so if you're willing, I'm willing. I know what Tulsa can be, but we have work to do. Y'all understand? Yes, sir. We have work to do. And so what I've been saying, at first I started saying no justice, no peace, right? No justice, no peace. But I've shifted now. Now I need y'all to look internally, because I'm not a messiah. Neither was Barack Obama, neither is Pastor Turner, neither is Rosa, neither is Nancy, right? No one person is gonna do this for you. Neither is Mario Johnson. Quit looking around. That's what Ella Baker was talking about when she said strong people don't need strong leaders. Until all of us decide that we're going to step up and say something, nothing is going to change. And so now what I need y'all to repeat before I give the mic back is, if it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. I want y'all to vote on August 25th. Every day before then, I want you to keep marching. I want you to keep talking. I want you to keep demanding. I want you to keep standing. I want you to do whatever you can to fight for justice in this city and to fight for a better Tulsa. I am fighting for you. I'm going to be so glad when we can fight together and you have a mayor that's willing to stand up for you and stand with you. I thank you all so much. My name is Greg Robinson. I'm running for mayor of Tulsa.
All right, everybody, let's give another big hand for Greg Robinson tonight. I'd like to invite our next speaker up, Miss Sherry Moore.
Good evening, Tulsa. I bring you greetings from Oklahoma City. Hello, beloveds. I first want to say that I rock with Greg Robinson. If I lived in Tulsa, I would be voting for my brother Greg Robinson. And because I am not here, what I do is I go online and I make calls for my brother Greg Robinson. And so when you want social change, we need you to make actual change in your actions. And that means that, just like he said, if it's up to us, it means that you need to take personal accountability and responsibility to make sure that we are electing and voting for those that stand for us, those that actually reflect our politics, our values, our morals, and those that are going to stand and say that I am here not just for justice, but that I am here because I bring a different dimension of humanity to us all. So I rock with Greg Robinson. Mayor Robinson is what I will be calling him, hopefully even after the 25th of August. I believe that he is going to be successful. It was interesting to me when I began to see the conversations about this event. It was interesting to me because I don't know about y'all up here in Tulsa, but every now and then in Oklahoma City, we have situations that bring tension and sometimes conflict. And I tell you that it's okay because discourse is important. Discourse is necessary. And discourse is what makes us uncomfortable, which makes us want to change. It makes us have to change. It makes us have to find a way to change. And so do not scurry from the discomfort. First, to my white allies, I always want to say, we're glad to see you. In Oklahoma City, they're never surprised when I speak about the responsibility of those that need to be standing not only in the front line, but standing all around the perimeter to make sure that you are protecting Black and brown and Native and Latinx and queer and marginalized bodies. That is your duty. That is your obligatory responsibility for carrying the privilege that you have in non-melanated skin. So I'm asking you tonight, to my white allies, will you make the pledge to continue to do just that? Yes, do you believe that Black Lives Matter? Do you understand the absurdities that it is when our Native and indigenous folk have to get a permit to stand to protest on land that is theirs? That disturbs my spirit from time to time. Just a few weeks ago in Oklahoma City, many of my indigenous family traveled down, and we had basically a sit-in and a teach-in against a statue that was literally built that promotes the land run. In Oklahoma City, sometimes we're just a little bit different. You all might not have problems up here in Tulsa like that. But down there, I was interested in the flyer or a sticker that, and in fact, it's one right here, the sticker that has abolished the Tulsa Police Department, and it has a police car on fire. Well, I got a little bit nervous because in Oklahoma City, our DA and our legal system decided that that makes you a terrorist. And so they charged 17-year-olds and 18 and 19 and young 20-year-olds with terrorism. And in Oklahoma, especially Oklahoma City, we know something about terrorism. And we know that in Tulsa, you know about terrorism because 2 of the worst domestic acts of terrorism happened in Oklahoma City and right here in Black Wall Street in the Greenwood community. That is terrorism. When you become and you bring genocide to an entire community simply because they have the audacity to succeed. Greg spoke about having the audacity to put his name on the ballot. And I said that it also takes tenacity. But he has the triple force because he also is a strategist. And when you combine those 3, that is when you begin to see change. When black people rise, we all rise. Did you know that? I said when black people rise, we all rise. One of the words that my grandmother taught me very early on was Okaloosa. And I never understood why it was important. She said, this is a Choctaw word. And just recently, reading it in a book, I saw it, and it said that Okaloosa means land of the black people. And that was supposed to be the capital city of Oklahoma, because that is where they were going to place all of the black people that they literally had brought here to drain us of our identity, of our dignity, and of our worth. But they didn't know the strength that comes from the soil across the ocean. They were going to put it here in Oklahoma, which means land of the natives. They probably didn't expect that there was going to be something that was created called the Green Corn Alliance. I see my brother Roberto Mendoza here, who taught me about solidarity and how black and brown persons stood together. What if we continued to do that? What would happen in Oklahoma? Would we be the example that the nation could look at? Would it be a better penned statement to say, imagine that, when we talk about true solidarity between marginalized communities? Can you envision it? Can you imagine what it would be if each of us all stood with all of our families and we stood on principle and purpose? And could you imagine if we never had to have the war cry that Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter is not just a movement, it is a lifestyle. It is one that I live day in and day out. It is one that all of my team lives, because we understand that we in melanated skin are also fighting for our simple survival. I don't think that is what it was supposed to be like. Now, there were some who did not have melanin in their skin that were very comfortable with the way that the systems were set up in this country, because financially it's beneficial for them. Well, I think in 2020 we want to deliver the message that that is no longer. When you begin to look at the statistics and understand that those who are persons of color, we outnumber those, that we are not coming for retribution. We are not coming to retaliate. We are coming to rise, and yes, you should be giving the land back, and you certainly should be paying reparations. But that is the absolute least that you could do. When you can stand and look into the faces of those that you say, that you love, that you respect, that you know, and look at them with the same dignity that you give to those in your family members who do not have melanin in their skin and are also immigrants, because white people really weren't from this country either. We know that. We have to speak truth. We have to accept truth. And we have to dismantle the systems and dispel the fallacies that we have been taught. So understand your history. Understand that each person that stands in solidarity with you, that shows up in moments like this, that is your neighbor. That is your family. And that those are the ones that are saying they are dedicated to continuing to uplifting and amplifying the messages of marginalized folks. Now, me as a black person, I have the audacity to say that I'm not just fighting for equality, I am asking for equity, because surely my people deserve it. But I'm not just fighting for myself, because I understand that, as Greg said, it is not about me. Leadership is not about showing your talents and your skills. It is the ability to be able to stand with those in spite of all of your flaws. And I know that I have them. Leadership is a constant blessing, but it is a constant call for us to continue to stretch ourselves to be able to appropriately serve. So I offer myself as a servant in the fight of equality, as a servant in the fight of equity, and as a servant in the fight of community. Anybody interested in being real community? Do you want to commune with one another? Do you understand the power of love? That if we really embrace what love really is, that not only will we love ourselves differently, but loving one another will be instinctive. Can you imagine that? And can you imagine the status quo being the love of humanity instead of trying to figure out how to dismantle systems that come to destroy just that? Young people, and I see many here, and that always gives me encouragement, and that is what gives me hope, because I believe that the generations that are here right now in our youth are the ones that are going to bring liberation to all people. Come here, Jalen. I'm also a mama. This is not my biological child, but she's one of my bonus children, and she is also one of the members of the Black Lives Matter Oklahoma Youth League. And so I encourage you also to invest in those that have the fervor and the energy to be able to continue the movement, the message, and will make the change. Do you believe that the young people are the ones that are going to bring liberation to all of us? We are, sister. Some of us are a little bit weary. I had some of my friends, they told me today, they bought me some better shoes so that I could march a little bit easier. But I said, I'm ready for the young people to take over, and I can just advise from the side, and I'm all right about it. But I love the fact that I see fearlessness and hope passion and power in the faces, in the beautiful faces of young people like my beloved Jalen. In the beautiful faces like this young person right here. In the beautiful faces like that young person right there. And so, to those of us that are closer to Social Security than we want to admit, but also realize that Social Security is not social, nor does it provide security. So we really need to invest in the young people because they're the ones that are going to have to make the changes for us. I give you this commission to continue to empower the young people around you, to begin to listen, because their messages are fierce, their messages are relevant. And many of our younger ones, we have not had the opportunity to tarnish or mess them up. And so their perspective is not jaded, and they get it so right. Believe in your young people. Be prepared to follow your young people. And be prepared to protect them. In my day, when I grew up, one of the songs that we talked about was Nuck If You Buck. Now, all of you all may not know it, but it meant you will not come for me, and you certainly will not come for mine. And so that is one of the things that I stand on a daily basis, to do not mess with my youth, my children, my family, my friends. And I speak that saying that all of those communities that I just spoke of, I include each one of you all in that, because you are standing with me today. It is us today. We are a family. We understand community. We understand solidarity. And so I close with one of my favorite sayings and the mantra that I try to live on a daily basis. And it says, if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because your liberation is bound in mind, then please let us get to work. Will you work with me, beloved? Will you do more than your reasonable service? Because that means we need you to do more than show up at the rally. It means that we need you to have conversations with your families. We need you to have conversations in your workplaces. We need you to be the change agents in your community. And we need you to make the calls. And for God's sake, we all need you to vote. Will you do that? I bring you blessings, gratitude, solidarity, and community from the Black Lives Matter Oklahoma City chapter. Hashtag we got us, we are us, we are one. We love you. Ashe. I'm so glad I didn't have to follow my brother Q here. Because every once in a while, when he speaks, he makes my spirit tremble. And so I am so awesome. I was so elated to see him the last time I got to speak before him too, and I was glad about it.
Let's go, Q!
Peace, y'all. My name is Quresh Ali Ramsana. You can call me Q. And I am honored and moved to be here. I'm going to be brief because there's some walking and some marching and some chanting and some chanting down Babylon that needs to happen here shortly. I'm going to begin with an excerpt from a poem I wrote a while ago. The poem's called Mascot. And just very briefly, I grew up in Enid, Oklahoma. Anybody ever been to that sad little place? I left Oklahoma City. I left Oklahoma in the late 80s, moved to Chicago for 28 years, New York for 2, and I've been back in Oklahoma now in Tulsa for the beginning of my 3rd year now. But this poem is about what the Washington football team, right? The Washington football team, yes. That's long overdue, that should have never been named as such. And about mascots. I grew up in Enid High School's mascot's the Plainsmen. And I'm going to read 2 short parts from this poem. I am an Okie. Grew up on Cherokee, as did Zach, my first best friend, who lived 2 blocks away and wore the street in his skin. We liked basketball, cars, and never watched westerns. Zach disappeared in high school after 1 year in war paint, riding a spotted mare at pregame. He was gone before I had the chance to tell him what I already knew. Grandma never claimed native and hated anyone darker than a grocery bag. This is where I begin, on Cherokee, trying to find Zach to talk about this mascot issue. The Beantown Honkies, the Johnson City Jarheads, the Washington Senators, the Oaktown Wannabes, the Cushing Crackers, the Tulsa Rednecks, the Old Baltimore Bigots, the Chicago Police Department, the White City Afrikaners, the Cook County Overseers, the Heritage Foundation.
Speak on it.
The Riverside Peckerwoods, the German Shepherds. So, one of the things that Sis Apollonia and I were just talking about, Apollonia, I keep saying that. I keep wanting to make you grow with Prince. I don't know why I keep doing that. Maybe it's because I like Prince so much too. Anyway, Apollonia, we were just talking about this Green Corn Alliance and about how really nothing like this really exists right now that's very active. And so I want to, on behalf of Tri-City Collective, of which I'm a member, and Devin, I'm going to put Devin in charge of this. We're going to build this coalition. Let's build this for real, and let's be about change. Be about moving the needle, about making policy changes, about making educational changes. Let's be about this, all right? Okay, good. So all of y'all are here as witness. You're going to enjoy and be a part of this thing, right? I got all of y'all, right? So we're going to figure out some way to sign you up. We'll deal with that. All right, last little poem. So if you are a white man and you're here, this obviously doesn't apply to you. It's called Bible Belted History. Okie white men are a curious herd, never sure if cowboy or cracker, skin-coated in dust from 1830 or 1921, hard to tell. They grow whiter with age. All right, y'all, so I think somebody's coming up with a megaphone, right? Gonna need y'all. You got this?
All right, thank you everybody for coming out. We are now going to march. But before we do, let's give a big hand for Food Not Bombs for providing snack and water support along with the Green Corn Medics, everybody. Let's go ahead. Yep. We'll also be having speakers at the courthouse. Reverend Mario Johnson will be joining us.